Rathmell, Sands, Saunders, Matthew Story, Jeanette Walker and Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Oh, right. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest for what we have on the agenda tonight? No? Right. Minutes of the last council meeting, 22nd of September 2021. Can somebody move that the minutes received as a correct record? Councillor Bell. Councillor Coop would second that. Right, item number 4, announcements and communications. First of all, welcome back to the council chamber. It's been a long time coming, but we're here. Whether we're going to stay is another matter, but we're here. Second thing is, can members please ensure that when they're voting, they'll put their hands back up. Put their hands up until after their vote has been counted. I mean, it's not so bad tonight because there's not so many of us, but never mind. The next thing is, please will members stand up and join me in a minute's silence to remember Sir David Amis, MP, who was tragically murdered on the 15th of October whilst carrying out his constituency surgery. So if we could all stand for a moment for David. Thank you very much, everyone. Item number 5, questions from members of the public. No questions have been received. So question number 6 is the Mayor's statement and report.
Thank you. Is this on? Is this working? Okay, hi. Welcome everyone. It's lovely to be back in here, isn't it? It's absolutely freezing. I'm going to keep this on. But it's just great to be back, and I think it feels more real, doesn't it, to discuss and perhaps debate or challenge and do it face to face, closer than in that huge, monstrous room we were in for the last few months. But that was still on its own much better than being online. So the things I want to talk about tonight, first of all, COVID. You will have all seen that exactly at the time that we've all of us, me included, got more relaxed and a bit more easygoing and back to normal-ish. The rates are picking up. We shouldn't be terrified, we shouldn't panic, but we should absolutely remember that this is, to some people, lethal. And just last week I heard of someone, a connection of the family, who had been in robust health as far as we knew, and this person very sadly died. Now, again, I don't want us to panic. I don't want us to lock each other away and go back to the lockdowns, and I don't think we will, but we have to be sensible. And I think it means wearing a mask sometimes indoors when you're around others and being sensible. So our rates are picking up, and they are everywhere. I think at the moment we're about the 80th worst, which means I think we're in the middle of the pack. So I think we should feel comfortable that despite the fact we have all of the things that would point to having a terrible infection rate, things like deprivation and a dense population, unemployment and other factors, our public health teams now, NHS, they're actually doing pretty well, and they're getting the message out there well. But we still need to push people to get these vaccinations. Some people are still stubborn and obtuse and difficult. Let's keep pushing them. Most of them won't listen, but we might catch the odd one. And obviously, if people get the chance to get their booster soon, which everybody will eventually, please take it up and remind others to take it up, because everybody's got their foot off the gas. Everyone feels comfortable. A lot of people think, I don't need my booster. It's all fine now. But we all do. don't normally single out wards, or I don't like to, but I'm going to talk about Hemlington, where for about 4 months, possibly longer, there has been a small, nasty, disgraceful little group that have brought that whole part of town down. They have intimidated people. There are people out there who are not just scared to go to the police, which is disgraceful enough on its own. They're scared to talk to the council. They're scared to even email the council. They're scared to talk to the councillor. What kind of world are we living in? By the way, these aren't, huge, intimidating grown men. These are often kids causing this fear. And when I say kids, aged 12 to 16. There is serious criminality there and everywhere, of course, but it's youngsters that are causing this trouble. And often people don't see it. If you live 600 meters away and your street's quiet, you think it's all fine. But let me tell you, there are people's lives being turned into hell by a small group. So I was absolutely ecstatic when the police told me and some of my colleagues and officers last week that there was going to be some action. They were out in Hemlington yesterday. They went out early doors. They arrested some people, racially motivated, aggravated attacks on people, throwing bottles at the police. But it's the intimidation that is the worst thing of the general public, and we mustn't stand for it. My message is, please, 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 if anybody's watching this at home, or if you're a counsellor, please beg people to report it. Reassure them that if they don't trust the confidentiality of the police or the confidentiality of the council, then go to Crime Stoppers, which anyone in the police will tell you that they can't access who's reporting that. Please report stuff. If you don't report it, we don't know about it. If we don't know about it, we can't do anything. There are other parts of town that need special attention too, but I was so pleased to see that happen in Hemlington. And I want us to make sure as well that we put pressure on those involved in sentencing. Not to ruin people's lives, but to save people's lives and get some people back on the right track by getting a tough bit of action, but to send a message that deters others and keeps them on the right track and reassures the public that the society actually cares about them. While we're on this subject, our wardens have been under intense attacks in places like Hemlington, windscreens smashed, intimidation, along with the police, along with the fire brigade, bricks being lobbed at them, horrible stuff. And I want to talk about our service that actually helps to keep people safe and helps to make people feel secure. There are people that will talk to them that won't talk to the police. Our wardens, I don't know what price you would put on a life. Is a life worth 10 million, 100 million, £1 million? I don't know. Probably priceless. Our wardens have saved lives, probably about 13 lives. They have reunited lost, confused adults who suffer from dementia with their families and with carers. They've reunited pets with their owners. They've reunited kids with their families. They've housed homeless people. They've got them off the streets. They've arranged food. The work they're doing is absolutely priceless. And the value for money we get is fantastic. It's not always obvious. If you don't use them and you don't need them, you don't know. And now the wardens have got this subgroup, the environmental enforcement team, and I was banging on about them last time, and I'll bang on about them again. They're catching fly tippers, they're cleaning the streets, and if people want to do it in Middlesbrough, they're going to get caught, they're going to get a fine. I hope they end up in the front page of the Gazette, and I hope they're ashamed and castigated and never do it again. I can see that Emily Craigie from the Gazette's, sorry to name you, Emily, it's not meant to shame you, but Emily was writing a piece for the Gazette, I don't know if it went today or yesterday or tomorrow, and it's about the colossal, ridiculous number of complaints that come in from councillors against other councillors. Now the costs of this, right, there'll be two lots of costs. One is the official number, one is the unofficial number, where you start to include some of the time involved, hundreds of thousands of pounds that the government doesn't give us the money for. It doesn't come out of a magic bank account. It's the person in the street that pays for that. We've got this tit-for-tat, bitter culture where people blame each other. I've seen people claiming to be bullied because they want to bully someone else and intimidate them. Please, and I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to point fingers, and perhaps to some extent we're all responsible for this culture that's evolved in Middlesbrough. Please, can we all try and grow up? can we all try and take a deep breath before we fill in complaints? And can we all try and be a bit more positive and look after the people that we were elected to fight for and the town we were elected to fight for? The last thing I'll just say is, if you're in Hemlington or wherever, and you're in trouble or you're intimidated, or if you're hungry, if you're fearful, if you're desperate, if you're lonely, we have the means to reach out and improve your life. We cannot solve every problem. We cannot fix everything for everyone, but we do, behind the scenes, improve people's lives and change their circumstances from something as basic as putting the food on the table to making sure they're not lonely or isolated. We've got people going out and digging residents' gardens. People who, there's a lady in Colby who had her front garden dug over on Tuesday night. It's a little thing, but it makes her feel better, and the council has arranged that, and we can intervene. So please get in touch. I want anyone who's struggling, who's suffering, who feels overlooked or abused, to get in touch with Middlesbrough Council, because we will do everything we can to help you. That's it from me. Thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do any members wish to put any questions or comments to the Mayor? We'll start this side. Councillor Morstan.
Thank you, Chair. Please see that the COVID bus was out in Newport Pub this morning. I think there's a very good response from that. So, well done there. I'd like to see more reaction to, positive reaction from people getting the injection. I get my booster gel on Friday on full front get me. Your final comments about council complaints. Can I point out that it's a very small group of councillors that are doing this? You've just painted us all with the same paintbrush. I do not like that, and I think a lot of my colleagues will not be happy on that point. I think the same interview we did with the Gazette, you made reference to uneducated councillors. I think there was a reference there. I haven't seen the article, but things. I'm sorry, but I'm uneducated. I don't have a university degree, don't have O levels or A levels. I had to leave school at 15. So I apologise for being uneducated.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I left school at 15 as well, actually, but I'll make a point, and I think I was really clear, but I obviously wasn't, so apologies to everyone. I'm absolutely not saying that you or anyone in this room has made a complaint, but I am saying that in this room and in our council there is a culture of complaining. There is a culture of using the complaint system to intimidate, bully and abuse other people and officers. And the impact it has on our finances and on our ability to get stuff done is horrible. And I'm certainly not saying that Tom Mawson has anything to do with it. I'm not even looking at any single person and thinking you're responsible. What I am saying is that as a group of people, perhaps we can all play a role in changing that culture. I think it is a relatively small group, but it's growing. And the strain it's putting on some departments is monstrous, and that hits us financially in many ways. First of all, the costs directly, but secondly, the costs of not being able to do other stuff, like get buildings let, where we've got legal documents need signing and need dealing with. And by the way, when I say uneducated, I don't mean someone who hasn't got a PhD, and I don't mean someone who hasn't got their O-level maths, like me. I failed O-level maths. I'm talking about people that aren't interested in the rules, the spirit, or the way that we should be doing business in this town. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Rooney, I think you were next.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of points on the Mayor's statement. On the COVID, yes, I think we all need to be vigilant. We're seeing the numbers go up, and it's really worrying across the country. And we were hoping for, I think, a bit stronger message from the from the ministers today, but it didn't come through. And in reference to what Councillor Mawson said at Newport, I was following the Facebook accounts and seeing how many people were going down and waiting to receive their jabs and their boosters. And it was really encouraging to see so many people. And I think the comments that come out from one of our officers was that it was young, it was old, and it was people from different ethnic backgrounds, so that is really, really encouraging. One of the comments that was made was that going to the riverside was difficult for a lot of people in the town because they didn't have the ability to get there, so I think that's something that we need to feed back and take forward. In terms of the behaviour in Hemlington, we don't condone the attacks at all on our officers or on other people, and I'd echo the statement that yes, we should be reporting it, and we'll encourage people to report it, and we'll certainly do that through our own councillors. On the final point about the complaints about councillors from councillors, politics doesn't have to be poisonous. It's a privilege to be an elected councillor. You were elected by people who live in your area, who want you to do something for them, and it's a big responsibility, and that should be taken extremely seriously. And we all have the responsibility to uphold the most highest of standards, because that's what we are elected to do. And yes, it is worrying about the number of complaints that are going through, but hopefully we are now looking into that and seeing how that's happening and what's underneath it, and maybe we can do something about that. Thank you.
Do you want to respond? Okay.
See if we can sort it out.
Okay. I've just been informed that something isn't working properly. The lights have gone off. So we can't sort of show this meeting to the public, so... Yeah, can we have a 5-minute break whilst we try to fix it up, please? Sorry about that. Right, we've just had some more information. We don't think we can fix it immediately, but seeing as we've opened the meeting, it's open to the public, so we can carry on with it. And if Scott manages to fix it, when he's pretty good at fixing things, if he manages to fix it, then it'll just kick in, and the people who are watching wherever will only see the bit that comes on afterwards. And it can't be helped, all of those things. Right, next question, I think, was Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd be amiss if I didn't talk about Newport, as I always do. In reference to Hemlington, actually, something that I've been talking to Councillor Jeanette Walker about is the fact of how locality working is happening in Newport and how much that's actually improving. In research for one of the questions I'm going to ask later, I actually looked at some of the crime stats, and Parliament Road is now below the Bewley Centre in crime stats for the month of August, which is actually quite amazing considering the point we started at. Schemes like Locality really do work, And I would urge every sort of councillor involved in Hemlington and the surrounding area really to sort of push for locality to be rolled out in the area. The other thing I want to reference is councillor complaints. Having seen some of the pointless and ridiculous emails that get flung about from councillor to councillor, I actually feel some of those complaints are probably justified, if I'm honest. When councillors are being called all sorts of names under the sun and their families are being sort of accused of various things, I actually feel that some of the complaints are probably justified. Probably not all of them, but I do think that we probably should call out those people who are making those unnecessary complaints, but the ones that are rightfully made need to be upheld because they are actually challenging councillors on a personal level, which is not fair. And I haven't been affected by that, but if I was affected by that, I would actually be quite hurt at some of the stuff that's been directed, especially councillors like Councillor Garvey, who's not here tonight, but he has received vicious backlash. Cheers.
Mention people's names. Do you want to respond to it, Andy?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I think it is really interesting that the crime in Parliament Road is for a month, so we shouldn't be set too much store by that right now, because crime in areas goes up and down depending on a range of factors. But it does appear that locality working, which is one of the ideas behind it, could be playing a role. And let's see when we get more data. So I welcome that too, and I think locality working can help all of our areas. The complaint system is there for people to use it. If somebody wrongs you and you have tried by other means to put something right, use the complaint system. That's what it's there for. And every council in the land does it. From Portsmouth to Sunderland, there are people filling out complaints form against a neighbouring councillor or whatever else. And that's often legitimate, and it's there to protect people. In Middlesbrough, we do far more of this than other places. It seems to be, from what I can gather, a culture that's built up over the last 5 to 10 years. But the rate is going up not like that, but like that. And of course, when it's legitimate, we welcome it. And I'm not going to name names, and I'm not going to point fingers, and it's not up to me to decide who's valid and who's not. But there is something very wrong going on here where decent people are being intimidated by the complaint system. Some people are abusing it. And it's costing the woman and the man in the street thousands of pounds. So we're not fixing stuff. We're not picking up litter. We're not helping their kid as well as we could or whatever else. Because we're wrapped up in malicious, malevolent, gratuitous complaints that are designed to intimidate. And by the way, I'll say it again, these complaints tie up officers' time and stress them out and often implicate officers in...
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Yeah, on Mr. Mayor's report, it's praise to looked after children. Point 10 and 11. 10, I've got a question. On 11, I just wanted to make a bit of comment, if it's okay. I'll put them both together, yeah? On 10, you mentioned, obviously, staff have been taking part in the training, the lab story training, which is obviously absolutely brilliant for the young people. And I wonder whether we included foster care in that. It doesn't mention, actually, about the foster carers. Right. So I mean, the reason I'm saying this, foster care obviously do a fantastic job. As you know, all the foster care, especially the cater for the young children, not to 2 years old, 3 years old, who potentially goes for the adoption, and they do a fantastic job. I think they know them children as well, very well than everybody else, you know, even better than social workers. So they need to be part of this training course. So they are that's brilliant, that's absolutely brilliant. And I'm really pleased to say that as well, all the social workers as well involved in this training. Generally, I noticed, that's taken off a bit slow. So I think that needs to be quite strong, you know, and a lot of people need to be in it. Yeah. On point 11, that's obviously 3 adoption orders granted secured this month. Last month, I think, is it? Can't remember actually, it's 1 month. Yeah, that's 3 of them. And I think that's really brilliant. And can I also mention what we had the meeting last night, cooperative parenting, and the ATB, that's the Adoption Tees Valley give us the report, and I read the report, and we went through a few issues yesterday, and it was fantastic. And with the adoption, Middlesbrough, I think, doing really, really well. Obviously, with the ATB, we have 20 children adopted throughout the COVID period. And COVID period, obviously, as we all know, everything changed around, obviously, you know. And yet, we've done really well. So obviously, we congratulated the ATB last night and our Middlesbrough team, and I will do that again. And I'm really pleased with that positive progress, you know. And 3 adoption orders, as I said earlier on, I think that is absolutely brilliant as well. So thank you all the staff, and congratulations to everyone. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Andy?
Thank you, Zafar. Councillor Udin, thank you for that. I'll join you in paying tribute to our brilliant foster carers. We've had far too many kids in care, we know that. You could argue that 1 kid in care is too many, but we have far too many kids in care, and being in a home, i.e. being in someone else's home, living with some kind of family unit, is infinitely preferable, healthier, more stable. It nurtures kids. There's evidence they do better at school. They behave better. And as a local authority, we've got better at that. And one of the things that perhaps in the past we didn't do well enough, we didn't shout enough and champion our foster carers, and they deserve huge praise. They get some money that kind of covers their costs and a little bit of inconvenience. No one makes a living out of it. No one does it for the money. But what they do is fantastic. Whether they've received the same training, that's a really good question. Right now, I don't know the answer, but I promise I'll get it for you. And I hope they do. But I would join you in championing the foster carers. They keep Middlesbrough's kids on track. They make them feel secure and loved. And I could name families that take in kids as foster carers, and the love they show them and the attention that they show them equals that of their own kids. It's a remarkable, moving thing. And we need more. And we need to go on a recruitment drive, a drive where we champion and we market the rewards of doing this. And they're not financial, they are goodwill and helping someone make their way in the world. And that's how Middlesbrough's going to get even better. If more of our younger people feel secure, can have an ambition, and go out into the world and do stuff, and foster caring really helps that. Thank you, Councillor Udin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Second lot of questions are for the Deputy Mayor. And the first one is from Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. With reference to Councillor Smiles' report, page 2, events, reports identified a series of events including Middlesbrough Arts Weekend, Middlesbrough Mailer, Dino Day Teesside Park, Teessaurus Park, the Diwali and various Christmas events. Along with Councillor Halawi, I recently attended a walk and talk event which involved a visit to the Black History exhibition at the Dorman Museum. I'm disappointed that there is no reference to this in the report. During Black History Month last year, the Council debated and supported a motion from the Labour Group which agreed a programme of training to be delivered to all elected members to educate councillors in Black history and issues of race and how they manifest themselves in society. Can I ask what progress has been made with this? I found this particularly relevant in the light of the recent Gazette article where my good friend John Kabua called for more encouragement of black people to stand to be councillors. I feel we need to demonstrate with our actions that we take this issue seriously. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Smiles.
Hello, can everybody hear me? Yeah. Thank you very much for those comments. I was actually aware of that event. I couldn't attend that day, but I really, really wanted to attend, and I heard that it went down really well. I think it is so important that we celebrate different cultures. And your point about councillors, Andy and I have discussed this. We're really, really passionate about getting out there and encouraging people from across all of our communities to consider being a councillor. And I mean, I would certainly talk to anybody if there's a genuine interest there. I will talk to anybody that's got an interest in becoming a councillor from any political persuasion, because I think it's, like Denise was saying, it's an honour to be able to represent your community, and I think we need more people to be standing up and putting the hat in the ring to do that. In terms of Black History Month itself, I'm sure it's the Black Youth Awards this Friday, so I'm hoping that people will be able to attend that. It's a youth event, and we've got all manner of things going on across our libraries and community hubs to celebrate Black History Month, and I would update you on that face to face if you want me to. But we promote Black literature, all kinds of different things to make sure that it's something that is celebrated in Middlesbrough.
As long as you're quick.
Just ask where there's no reference made in your report.
I can't tell you why it's specifically not referenced, but we've got all kinds of events that go on in Middlesbrough, and if I was to reference every single event, the report would never end. But I totally take your point. I'll make sure that it's included next year.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Furness. Again for Councillor Smiles.
Thank you, Chair. It's Albert Park, and obviously a lot of things going on. I'm very happy to see that the tennis courts hopefully will get refurbished. It's been a long time coming, considering we have lost a lot of public tennis courts around Middlesbrough. But I was just wondering, is there going to be more diversity in sort of areas? Like, I know a lot of places like basketball courts or skate parks that you've seen across other areas that get probably more in use now than tennis courts. So I was just wondering, that could be something thought about for the future. Thank you.
Councillor Smiles.
Thank you. So I know Albert Park's something you're really passionate about. You know, my personal opinion is that it's a fantastic asset in Middlesbrough, and just with a little bit of TLC we can make it really amazing. Andy and I were there a couple of weeks ago to look at the croquet club, which quite amazingly is the biggest in the north, which I think is something we need to build on. It's brilliant that we're bidding for money for the tennis courts. I think it's something that I would personally love to see free for use for all people. I don't think there's enough people that get to give tennis a go. So if we can invest in them, that would be brilliant. But of course, we're open to any ideas, be it, you know, any golf, the lake, you know, anything that you think that we could legitimately consider in Albert Park, we're open to listening to. In terms of the £100,000 investment that we're putting in, work's going to be completed on that in March, so it's not too long before we'll start seeing real changes in Albert Park.
Thank you. Next question is from Councillor Cook, again for Councillor Smiles.
I'm asking my question on behalf of Jeanette Walker, who can't be here tonight. It's relating to page 5, paragraph 28. Just switch to my notes. Under the section incidents captured by CCTV, it is noted that only one incident in Hemlington was captured on CCTV. From the data provided by police, the Bewley Centre alone in August had over 15 crimes reported. This is only one single part of Hemlington. In an area that has seen multiple dispersal orders and now with the arrest of 4 young people, how can this figure be so low? We've talked about it a lot tonight and how bad Hemlington currently is. Is it a case that the CCTV simply does not work, or is the council's CCTV woefully insufficient, and will the residents see improvement?
So obviously CCTV coverage varies greatly across the town. You know, in my own ward in Unthorpe, we have a couple of cameras. In your ward, I'm sure there's over 50 cameras operating at any one time. We have got a scheme to increase the amount of CCTV, and obviously with all that's been going on in Hemlington, it's important that we do that. But kind of going back to an earlier point you made about locality working, I think that's something that we could consider in Hemlington as well. And in the new year, I know there's going to be an executive report looking into what impact locality working's having and whether we can spread that to places like Hemlington as well. So I don't know if I've rambled a little bit there, but I hope I've gone somewhere in answering your question.
Yeah. Andy, you want to speak?
Hi, I'd just like to add on that and reassure on the cameras. Not every camera that you see around the town has been put in recently or even put in by the council. Some of them are legacy cameras, do with a bit of grant money that appeared, 10 years ago and then has then run out. But I can promise you one thing, we've got more cameras working in Middlesbrough now by a massive mile than we've had at any time in the last 20 years. And the number is increasing, and more cameras in Hemlington are definitely desired, more cameras in Easterside, in Newport, in Winniebanks, in everywhere else. But let me tell you, criminals hate them. And I'll tell you the proof of that. We put a camera on the Casshouse Road in Hemlington, the hotspot. And do you know what people did? They ram-raided it. They basically rammed it, nicked a car, smashed it down. Several £1,000s down the drain. But more importantly, the criminals then knew they weren't being watched. So we put another one up and we put bollards around it so they couldn't get a car. Do you know what they did then? They got some kind of accelerator, some kind of petrol or something like that. They poured it all over the camera, set light to it, and to the pole this is, and the whole mechanism stopped working. What we've got on order now, was it black bins around it? And what we've got on order now is what we put in Grove Hill. It's pretty much indestructible. It's called a Belfast camera, and you pretty much cannot do anything with this. And this world has come to something when we're putting Belfast cameras in parts of Middlesbrough. That's what we have to do. And we will keep spending the money to catch the criminals and make decent people feel safe. So if we don't have enough in Hemlington, which I know we don't, and we don't have enough of them across the town, but we've doubled the number we had, right? So we've doubled the number that we had. We've spent more money than anybody thought we would on cameras. We monitor them all 24/7 when we put them in, despite what people say, and we use them for evidence going back, and we've caught loads of criminals. We've caught fly tippers, muggers, violent thugs, but we're going to get more. There's another approximately £300,000 of money coming for cameras to go all over the town. And if you want one in your ward, if you want 2 in your ward, you want 5 in your ward, I can't promise we'll do the full number, but I promise we will get something in your ward to make decent people feel safe and help the police gather the evidence to lock up the idiots that bring us down. I hope that answers your question, Chris.
Thanks, Andy. Right, now we've got a question for the Executive Member for Education, and it's from Councillor Philippa Story, but obviously the main question isn't here. So if you wish to read your question out, I'm sure Bernie will write it down, and Bernie will make sure he answers it when he returns from wherever he is.
Hi, it was just a question about school places. Obviously, for September next year, 2022, there's going to be a 200 place shortfall for children starting secondary school, and I just wondered what was going to be done about that and if they were aware of it.
Andy, can you answer it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So that sounds really alarming. Please don't be alarmed. It's all completely in hand. The demographic shift is such that we've got more kids, partly because of the success of Middlesbrough schools in recent years. We've got more demand for places than was even anticipated by us. And we can't build a school that quick. We've got the new one coming out over the border in St Hilda's. They're on site within a matter of months, but it's going to take 2 years to build it. So there's going to be temporary pressure for places in Middlesbrough. The good news is our officers have worked super hard with loads of schools finding short and medium term solutions. So there might be some places that I won't name the schools actually in case your kids go there and it panics you, but some kids here and some kids there. So to reassure you, Philippa, it's all in hand. I'll get you precise details, but it'll be confidential at this point. But there is a demographic boom in Middlesbrough. We've already got a very young population compared to all of our neighbours. Only Newcastle beats us for young. The large number of younger people in the borough, in the whole of the northeast, and almost in the whole of the north. And so we've got a huge demographic challenge. But the good news is our brilliant new free school comes online and work starts next year. But till then, we're going to have to do a bit of mix and match with some of our schools and make sure there's capacity. But no single family or kid will go without a place. And that's a personal promise from me.
Okay. Right, thank you very much. Right, next set of questions for the Executive Member for Environment, Finance and Governance. And the first question is from Councillor Arundel.
Thank you, Chair. The question is on item 3 on the Executive Member for Councillor Cooper, and it is on the Transporter Bridge. Given work is already happening to secure angle bracings on the bridge after its closure in 2019 because of reports of the same falling from the bridge, that was followed by an extensive survey resulting in estimates for work to be carried out running to millions of pounds, that was done by Atkins, I don't understand why a further amount of work of a similar nature by Rapid Engineering is required at this time. Please can you help me understand the purpose of this work? Thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you. That's an important question because the transporter means a lot to all of us in this area. Now, in December 2020, Middlesbrough Council and Stockton Council agreed of a spend of £650,000 to make urgent repairs. That's where the welds were all cracked and they've rebolted them rather than welding them so that there's a bit of movement in the bridge without it all breaking again. But that's just to get it so it's safe. Now, if everybody wants the bridge in a full working condition, and personally I do, I think it's iconic to our area and known all over the world, then we'll have to spend more money on it. But of course we can't do anything until we get a full report in and then bring it to the council for approval. But that's as far as we got at the moment. They've made it safe. And then we'll get the full costings in and see what people think about it. Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Go on, you can come back, Councillor, as long as you're quick.
Thank you. Councillor, your assumption is that the bridge will be opened as a working bridge again. Is that right? And who's made that decision? Because your indication, your answer tells to me that's the case. Well, that's the way it sounded to me, because you've said everybody in the town wants the bridge back working, and that's not always the case. Some people have a different opinion to that.
I said personally, I would like to see it working.
No, if you look, it's recorded, you'll listen to what's being said. But I feel that what's happening here is there been a decision made to have the bridge brought back into service as a working bridge, which is something I don't want, because I think it's a complete and utter money cash cow. You're just throwing money after more money at the bridge, which is completely outdated. Let's keep it as a monument to our past, by all means. I don't want to see it pulled down, but to bring it back as a working bridge is something I certainly don't think the town can afford. The running costs of that are enormous, plus the initial outlay would be needed, millions and millions of pounds. So that's the way I feel about it. And I think this report by Repard is to do with that, the intention to bring it back without asking the people. And I mean, it's no good asking a couple of people in the street.
Councillor, I think you've made your point.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Next question again is for Councillor Cooper. This is from Councillor Rooney.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair. Yes, Councillor Cooper, it's on page 1 of your report and it's at paragraph 8. We have to remember who is reading these reports. We produce them for the members of the public in Middlesbrough to understand the work that the Executive and the Council are doing. So when I look at paragraph 8, it has got 6 acronyms in it, none of which I understand. So can you tell me what each of those acronyms mean? And then can you tell me which areas of Middlesbrough will benefit from this work? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't like acronyms either. And I'll be perfectly honest, I had to look them up. So, yes, I can tell you what they stand for. Traffic Signals UTMC, Urban Traffic Management Control. The new Urgent Traffic Management Control and UTC, Urban Traffic Control, progressing well with Siemens carrying out the work to have new systems in place soon. Funding is available by TCF. Now that is Transport Cities funding, where the government are putting forward 2.45 billion in grants to drive up productivity through investment in public transport infrastructure. Now it does say in some large cities, we are not a large city. However, we are putting forward a bid as part of the Teesside Combined Authority. We're trying to get the money that way, which will benefit the entire area. But mainly our interest has to be getting this for Middlesbrough. That's what we're here for, to look after Middlesbrough and Middlesbrough people. I think I've covered all the acronyms, haven't I? One of them was Transforming City Funds, which I've just mentioned, Urban Traffic Control and Urban Traffic Management Control. I think the Urgent Management Control is actually our software system. Does that cover it? Sorry? Near the end on the back, hang on. Oh, you're looking at VMS and CCTV and ANPR air quality. VMS, you've caught me out. I didn't Google that one. CCTV, we all know what that stands for. We've just been talking about them. ANPR, I didn't Google that one either. And like I said, I'm like you, I don't like acronyms. But I will Google them and I will get back to you.
Right, yeah, thank you for that. I'm well impressed. You've managed to do that, so thank you. But can I just put a plea out there in future that we move away from the acronyms and actually make the sentences mean something so that people in the public actually understand what's going on? Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. The last question now for Councillor Cooper is from Councillor Cook.
Automatic number plate recognition, but just on the other point of human resources, it's obviously been a very, very trying time, and you mentioned various support groups within your report. I'm just wondering the last time the staff was surveyed so we could get a measure of morale within the staff, and if the staff have been surveyed recently, have we got any results or findings from it so that we know that the staff are coping okay with the obviously changes to the working environment and stuff like that?
I've been caught out twice now, haven't I? I haven't actually got information on staff surveys. I've got information on the intranet search on equality, diversity, inclusion, which then leads you on to a load of different things for different members of staff so they can network and get help and speak to each other. But as for actual surveys, I'm sorry, I will have to get some information and get back to you on that.
Right, thank you very much. Right, 2 questions left, but they're both now for the Executive Member for Regeneration. First one, T's AMP, is from Councillor Arundel.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Polano, the Advanced Manufacturing Park, I'm delighted to see that it's a success that it is. And I walked past it the other day along the river, I walked along there with a dog, and I can see that there are plans afoot there and preparation work being done to expand that. So that's great. It's really good news for the town, the jobs and whatever that's brought to the town. I remember this being announced in a blaze of publicity by Ray Mallon years and years ago. Advanced Manufacturing Park, it was going to be the be-all and end-all. And then nothing happened for years and years. Thankfully, that's done now, and we're away and running. It's a really successful site. In fact, I walked round the site after I came back round, and it looks great. And I'm really pleased to see that it's up and running at long last. So can you send my congratulations to all those who have been part in getting that up and running and a success that it is. Thank you.
You want to respond, Councillor?
Chairman. It's on. Thank you, Councillor Arundel, for those remarks. It's been very nice to hear something supportive for what's happening in Middlesbrough. And we are, just as a brief reply to, I saw the title of the question, but I didn't know it wasn't a question, it was a remark thanking the council for what they've done with the advanced manufacturing park. And it's great to hear, because we are now down to the last unit. There are 3 parties wanting it, so we're going through their proposals to pick who gets it. The park would then be fully occupied and paying, well, substantial rent into this council's coffers. So I'm pleased to see that, and once again, thank you for your remarks.
Thank you, councillors. And the last question, again, for the Executive Member for Regeneration, is from Councillor Furness.
Thank you, Chair. Item 2, stating where Toucan Crossing, and also mentions the zebra crossing on the avenue. But the schemes like this that go such a long way for safety and for making the town more accessible for everyone. And obviously these schemes, one of them came under the small members scheme, and the other one, I know Councillor Jeanette Walker said she pushed for this to happen. Obviously, I think it was an accident actually happened to a little girl. And I would like to see maybe identify areas around the town that could have these schemes put in without something happening before. So yeah, I would just like to, if we could roll out more schemes and identify areas where we could put in more accessible crossings. Thank you.
Councillor?
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, once again, thank you for your comments, and we appreciate that the Toucan Crossing, yes, that was put in following an accident, which was very bad, sad to see, and I'm sad to see the fact that we have to wait for accidents to happen. And I've been told similar things that, oh, well, no accidents have occurred within the statistics, but that doesn't justify the fact that we haven't got traffic calming systems in all of our smaller estates. I myself must have put in for the 3 main roads that run through my estate for traffic calming, and unfortunately I am getting a little bit of movement, but everything takes time and money, and that's the thing we're short of, and manpower. So if we could get people to put them in for nothing, then it'd be great, but unfortunately. But yes, I thank you for your remarks, and we are pleased with the Toucan Crossing is successful, but someone said that maybe they should have handrails, but once again, the statistics show they do not do anything for pedestrian safety. So we'll leave it at that for now, but yes, more traffic calming measures throughout this town. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillors. Right, on to item agenda number 8, which is the report of the Chair of the Overyoon Scrutiny Board. In the absence of Councillor Saunders, I'm going to invite Councillor Morstan to present the report.
Thank you. Yes, Chair. This report's for noting. The panels are scrutinising quite a wide range of topics, and to the usual high standard, I must add, and thanks for everybody involved. Any questions, we will ensure that written report is given to all members. If you make the question, Caroline will take it down and ensure we're all made aware of it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Councillor. Okay. We'll move on to number 9, which is the flexible use of capital receipt strategy. And Councillor Cooper is going to present this report.
I've been caught a third time, haven't I? I've marked up 2 reports to report on. Right. Come on. Can you assist me, Chair? Which page is it I'm looking for?
I haven't got mine with me, so I don't know. Page 51.
Thank you. Ah, yes. Capital receipts strategy. Yeah. So, what happens is when we get money from sales and things, we're only allowed to use it for certain items. And what's been asked for is that, and I should have that marked up actually. Yeah, there it is. So, the proposed flexible use of capital restraint strategy is linked to the Council's revenue budget, medium-term financial plan and capital strategy, and therefore plays a key role in ensuring that the strategic plan is delivered effectively. And as I was saying, this is money we get from selling things and we can only use it for certain purposes. So what the report goes in to ask for is that the Council approves the use of the flexible finances for other matters, and it recommends to enable the effective management of finances in line with the Council's local code of corporate governance, the scheme of delegation and agreed corporate financial regulations. The approach set out within the report will help the Council maximise the use of financial resources available while ensuring that there is a minimum impact on the level of services delivered to the public on the Council payer. Yeah. What we want to do is we want to take the those receipts and move them over so that we have them available. If we don't spend them, we just put them back. It's just a backup plan. It's like an insurance policy, really. And that's basically all I can say about it, unless anybody wants to ask me something specific, now that I've found the papers.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody got any questions? Can't see any hands up anywhere. Well, this item has to have a vote. Sorry, Councillor Rooney.
Thank you. Just taking into account that the councillor wasn't able to locate his papers, but can we be absolutely clear what we're being asked to approve? Because I don't think I am. Just for clarity, just so that we know what we're being asked to approve. Thank you.
Yeah. Ian, could you come in and answer this for us?
Thank you. Can people hear me? Okay, so the purpose of this report, as Councillor Cooper has set out, is to give us a temporary approval in the current financial year to use capital receipts to fund revenue expenditure, transformational revenue expenditure intended to save us money going forward, rather than spend them on capital, which is what you're normally only allowed to spend them on. This isn't something. This is, as Councillor Cooper set out, a backup plan. This allows us to increase our reserves to the tune of £5.1 million. And given the current levels of uncertainty in local government funding, so that's uncertainty around what the COVID pandemic is going to do to our expenditure in the next few years and what the state of the national public finances is going to mean for our income in the next few years, it just gives us an extra buffer in case of financial problems going forward. If it is not required, then we can reverse it out and return to the previous position.
Councillor Halawi.
Thank you, Chair. Ian, could you please explain to us then what could be the potential impact or possible impact on the capital funding budget if we're going to lend it out to spend it differently? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Chair, so what we would do is instead of funding £5.1 million of capital expenditure with capital receipts, we would fund it with borrowing. and that would involve us borrowing an additional £5 million with an estimated cost of just over £200,000 a year. If that money is then not required as part of reserves, we'll be able to pay that borrowing back down and take that cost back out. That's absolutely correct, yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions? Andy?
Thank you, Barry, and thank you, Ian. I mean, obviously, this is not the simplest of concepts, but I just make sure I completely understand it. So this is about giving us flexibility, boosting our reserves, and it doesn't immediately give us any extra cost. It's only if we use the money that we actually increase the borrowing. Okay, so it's giving us, ahead of the financial turbulence that is undoubtedly coming as inflation is set to skyrocket, it's giving us more of a buffer and a potential increased safety net if we need it. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Great, thank you.
I'm not forecasting that we will need it, but I am forecasting that, well, not forecasting, but I am aware that we have a great deal of uncertainty over the next couple of years. But our figures at the moment do not indicate that we need it. I would just like the safety net to be in place in case we need it.
So I'd like to just add that Ian is our ultimate boss of all things financial. Ian is a very prudent and, with a small c, conservative man. And if Ian thinks it's wise, it probably is very wise. He's not a big risk taker. So this will be a piece of action to reduce risk rather than increase it, the way I see it. Thank you.
Councillor Halawi.
Thank you, Chair. How do we know that we're getting the best value for money then in terms of that potential borrowing, in terms of the interest that we might have to pay back if we were to borrow? How do we know that that's the best option? Thank you.
Whenever we borrow, and we don't borrow for specific schemes, we borrow when we have that cash flow need to do so. And whenever we do, we use the market fully to make sure that we get the best possible interest rates. We also spread the risk of that so that we have some money borrowed short term and some money borrowed longer term, and the longer term money is over different periods in order that we balance the overall interest rate risk. Obviously at the moment interest rates are historically low, although we would expect them to start going up in the next couple of years. Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any questions? Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. No, I'm in favour in principle of the motion, but I can note that the vast majority of the funds that you might be looking to use those capital receipts for are for children's services, which I fully appreciate that children's services is in dire need of more funding and more support. I have heard officers and members describe children's services though as a financial black hole, and I have to fully admit as a councillor I don't understand why that is, but that's my own ignorance. It's just something I do want to point out, that like we are potentially using capital receipts which would be an opportunity cost if we reinvested them in capital assets as opposed to borrowing, to fund something which is constantly described as a financial black hole. So it's not, I'm not speaking out against the motion, I'm definitely in favour of it, but it's just something that I do want to sort of flag up publicly because I don't understand why that is always the case. So thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you, Chair. The reason that the majority of the expenditure is focused on children's services is because that is where the majority of our transformational activity is happening at the moment. It's not an indication of where the overall levels of spend are, but because of the Ofsted inspection result and the improvement programme, the transformational activity which we are allowed to spend capital receipts on is mostly focused in children's services. So that is why those are the areas that we're focused on, rather than any long-term costs of social care or other areas of children's services spend. I hope that's helpful.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Rooney?
Thanks, Chair. We will be supporting this proposal. We think it's prudent, we think it's good. But can I just make the point that this was to be presented by the executive member? The executive member is responsible for putting this to the council and for asking us to make the decision. I'll thank Ian for his comments, but he is not here as a person. He's an officer who is not here to be challenged or questioned on any of these. That should rightly go back to the executive member. And can I suggest, and I know people are not going to like this, but can I suggest that the executive member looks to see at what training and education he might need in this particular area, so that the next time he comes to the chamber, he's able to answer the questions properly for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? Andy, you want to say something?
Yeah, hi. Can I just say that I think this is a very difficult thing for Councillor Cooper to present. I think he's got an extraordinary complex situation to present at a time when he's very busy. And you know what? If he's lost his place in a booklet, I think that happens to me quite a lot, and I'm sure if it happens to all of us quite a lot. And I do want to say that the way that executive members in this council have performed over the last 10 years has been shocking. It's been the poor performance of executive members, your colleagues, that have led to the crisis in children's services and other problems that we had. And I find it extraordinary and thoroughly depressing that there appears to be an attempt now to make Barry look and feel bad. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do apologise, councillors. As you can see, I've got them marked up, and I have discussed this report with the director at length. I had everything right in my mind what I was going to present and how I was going to present it. However, for the last couple of days, I've been suffering with sciatica. And those of you that have it will know exactly what I'm talking about. I've had very little sleep, and it has worn me down. So I do apologise. I do take on board constructive criticism from Councillor Rooney. I am booked in for a few training courses, and I will improve. But right now, it's a mixture of pain and other things that are slowing me down a bit. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, okay, shall we now go to a vote? I'll hand over to Charlotte to organise a vote.
Thank you, Chair. So statutory guidance requires that full council must approve this strategy before it can be used. So can I ask initially whether there is any dissent to the approval of the strategy? I can't see any hands raised, so in which case the strategy is approved for use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item is number 10. It's the Martin West Neighbourhood Plan. And we're going to invite Councillor Polano to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. And this is a request that the Council approve the Martin West Neighbourhood Plan adoption. And the purpose of the report was to provide a summary on the main points raised, and the report was very lengthy. This is a condensed version, but I'll try and make this as brief as I can and not bore you. It started in 2013. In 2013, the Council approved the design of the Martin West Ward as a neighbourhood area and the setting up of the Martin West Neighbourhood Forum, enabling the forum to prepare a neighbourhood plan for the designated area. The forum prepared and submitted its original Martin West Neighbourhood Plan in 2015, and following an independent examination and a successful referendum result, the neighbourhood plan was subsequently adopted by the council in November 2016. As a consequence of recent ward boundary changes, part of the Colby-Newham ward covering Newham Hall, Brascastle Lane and De Bruce Park areas now lie within the Martin West ward. The existing adopted 2016 neighbourhood plan for Martin West does not therefore cover these areas due to them not being within the ward at the time of its preparation. The Neighbourhood Forum subsequently submitted a modified draft neighbourhood plan to the council for examination in 2020, incorporating the boundary changes, updating the relevant adopted planning policies in order to reflect the enlarged neighbourhood area boundary and include additional proposed open space designations. The independent examination, the modified plan was undertaken in December 2020. The examiner's report was issued at the end of 2021. A referendum recommending that the modified plan should proceed to referendum stage of the neighbourhood planning process, subject to some minor amendments being made. A referendum was held on the 15th of July 2021 and resulted in 644 votes in favour of the neighbourhood plan coming into force and 48 votes against. Following the successful outcome of the referendum, the council is now required to formally adopt the Martin West Neighbourhood Plan from 2021 to 2029, replacing the existing 2016 Martin West Neighbourhood Plan in the determination of planning applications within the designated Martin West neighbourhood area. The recommendation is that the council adopts the Martin West Neighbourhood Plan 2021 to 2029 as part of the council's policy framework so that the plan can be used in determination of future planning applications within the designated Martin West neighbourhood area.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody got any questions for Councillor Polano? No? So we need to go to a vote. Charlotte, would you...
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Polano has said, the neighbourhood plan, if adopted, will form part of the Council's policy framework, and as such the law requires that it is approved by full Council in order to be adopted. So again, can I ask for a show of hands if there is any dissent to the adoption of the plan, please? I can't see any hands, so in which case the plan is adopted. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Item number 11, urgent items. There are no urgent items. Number 12, members' question time. We have one, and it's from Councillor Thompson to ask Councillor Smiles about the lottery, I think.
Thank you, Chair. Could the executive member update the council about the progress to date of the Middlesbrough lottery? What has been the uptake and ticket sales, and what benefits have the organisation signed up seen so far? Thank you, Chair.
First of all, I want to say thank you for your question. Anybody who knows me knows I've been banging on about this Middlesbrough lottery quite relentlessly over the last couple of months. So I am really invested in it. It was an idea I came up with a couple of years ago now, and it was because we have a lot of ambitions for events in Middlesbrough, but we didn't have the budget to match the events, basically. So I researched whether local authorities can legally run lotteries, which they can. We found a fantastic organisation called Gatherwell that runs our lottery for us, and with our support. The first draw was a couple of weeks ago. The date was September the 4th. We have a draw every single week, and every week there's the opportunity to win £25,000, which is quite amazing, and the odds are better than the National Lottery and the Health Lottery. But the best thing about it is its capacity to help good causes in Middlesbrough. So a ticket costs £1, but 60 pence out of every ticket goes to whatever good cause the person buying the ticket selects. So as of last Saturday, we had 635 players purchasing a total of 1,264 tickets. Based on the current uptake, so if that kind of level of support remains for the next year, we're on track to raise £40,000 for good causes in Middlesbrough, which, speaking to the organisers, is actually quite unprecedented at this point. So it shows just how generous people who live in Middlesbrough are. I think it's a really fantastic thing. I think it would be unfair for me to tell you how much individual organisations have raised. But if you go onto the website, it has basically a tracker for each of our good causes. There's there was 36. There's now 43 good causes signed up. And there's all kinds of organisations. We've got My Sister's Place, everybody will be familiar with. We've got Martin Community Centre. We've got grassroots sports organisations, and they're all benefiting from it. And I had a lovely email the other day, and we last month had £1,500 deposited into our Middlesbrough Council bank account. So it's lovely to see money coming in, not just pouring out constantly. I think that's about it. I hope I've gone some way to answering the questions, but if not, feel free to ask some more.
Thank you for that, and I do understand the background and how it was set up. You haven't answered my question. My question was, what has been the uptake and ticket sales? And how many organisations have registered?
Sorry, I don't need a microphone. I did answer your question. I said 43 good causes are signed up, and there's been last month.
So did you say you're not allowed to say how much each organisation got paid out? How much have they benefited from it?
Right, so each organisation sets their own target, and you can go onto the website. I couldn't go through every single organisation to say how much each is raised, but they are all working towards their own targets, and you can log on at any time and you can see where each of those are at in terms of reaching their target.
Thank you, Councillor. Next item is item number 13, which was going to be a motion. In the absence of the proposer and the seconder, I've had a request for me to consent that the motion can be withdrawn. So item 13 has been withdrawn. Item 14 is notice of urgent motions. We don't have any. So that brings us to the end of the meeting. I'll close the meeting. Thank everybody for their attendance. Tell Ian that the Borough match is on the red button.
1-0.
And thank you all for attending. Thank you all. Good night, everybody. And see you all